Have a great day at school. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits ya. Let's talk September reads, because I've got a lot. I just realized I forgot to welcome you to my channel if I didn't scare you off already with my version of the iconic scene from Risky Business starring Tom Cruise. Yeah, I can't really move like 20-year-old Tom Cruise. I can't even move like 60-year-old Tom Cruise, let's face it. But anyway, welcome to my channel. Mama needs to read romance, but maybe not act out iconic scenes from 80s movies. But let's get into the books I read in September. I read more books in September than ever, and only 2 were novellas. I read 1 paranormal book, 2 contemporary romance, 6 fantasy romance, and 7 historical romance, for a total of 16 books. I thought I'd talk about them in the order that they hit me over the month. I'm gonna start with my 5 stars and then go all the way down to my 2 stars. Okay, so let's talk about my first 5. And I say I'm gonna talk about all 5 at the same time because they are 5 books of the same series, the Parallel series by L. O'Rourke. I can't even begin to tell you how much this series has meant to me. I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm going to probably, maybe for my birthday's in December, I might buy myself physical copies of these books. They just meant the world to me. And I can't say too much about them because I don't want to give anything away for anybody that might read them. They're just, I can't even tell you. I'm going to try not to get emotional because who wants to see, welcome to my channel where you can watch B ugly cry about books. That sounds fun. No. So let's just talk about them. So the first book is called Parallel, and it follows a girl named Quinn who is having these crazy dreams, perhaps, about another man. And she realizes that she feels more strongly for the man in her dreams than she does for the man she's supposed to be marrying. Unfortunately, sometimes these dreams cause her to have seizures. And so they rush her to the hospital where she actually meets her dream man. This is a fantasy series. It could be time travel. It could be parallel universes, something like that. I don't want to give too much away, but the chemistry between herself and her, I guess, fated mate, really, kind of, is off the charts. I enjoyed this book immensely, but of course you have to go straight into Intersect because this is technically a duet with Parallel. I mean, it leaves at a cliffhanger. It's not even technically a happy for now. It's like a cliffhanger. It's got great fantasy elements. When I say the chemistry is good, it gets to a point where I almost felt like I was worried about them. I was like, are you guys okay? You're so attracted to one another. I feel like there's maybe supernatural pull as well. So it's not even just regular need, so to speak. It's like highly intense. But if that's your thing, then you're going to be in heaven with this series. I have to tell you, I dreamed about these books. They got in my subconscious. There's the suspense and the mystery of what is actually happening. And the second book, Intersect, we see that there is a villain who is coming after Quinn. It's just so intense. And yet what's so funny about this duet is the author still has time to throw some tropes in, like just one bed, or should we be dating this early? It just felt like this series was so epic that they didn't even need to do anything like that, but it just added a little bit of fun. The ending of the duet, the end of Intersect, hit me so hard. I was sobbing. I never expected it. I thought ultimately this duet was about family and true love and sacrifice. And I'm getting goosebumps right now as I talk about it. It was so good. So 5 stars to both. And now I'm going to talk about the novella in between. The Wedding was all it was titled. And I didn't see that you could even find this on Kindle Unlimited other than if you grabbed all 4 of the books together. It's a novella. There's not a lot of time in a novella to go deep into things. I really wanted to see more of The Wedding. I love where they wind up having it and who ends up attending. I can't say more than that. Oh, I hope you read these. Oh, I just enjoyed it immensely. The only thing that took away was they were trying to to do exposition. Like, oh, if you've never read the first 2 books. In any case, I enjoyed The Wedding very, very much. But that leads me into books 3 and 4. Book 3 was Across Time. Oh my gosh. So it's a totally different couple now that we're getting into. And it's a totally different time across time. Hence the title. We have Sarah, who goes by Amelie. She's in the 80s, which, the 80s, what was that like? I don't even remember. So Sarah is living in the 80s, and she is being visited in her dreams by her dead sister, who says, you have to help Marie Therese. And she's like, okay, who is that? She winds up going back to France in the 30s, and it's a vineyard. If you enjoy or think you might enjoy France in the 1930s, a vineyard, a gorgeous, gorgeous man with whom the slow burn couldn't be slower or burnier, then I highly, highly recommend this book. There were crazy elements. Again, I can't say too much. I loved it so much. And then the 4th book, which was the second, I mean, you have to read the 4th book if you're going to read the 3rd book, Across Eternity. This one, I sort of enjoyed it the least. And I say that because we're in France during World War II. So all of the triggers, you name it, there's like so many things. I don't even want to go into it because I feel like that could be triggering, but imagine what sort of things you might encounter, especially being a woman in the war. It was really hard to get through, but the ultimate takeaway from the book, which is something that hit me hard in my own life, was even though we go through such incredible hardships, they can be worth it. And you wouldn't have the reward without the hardships. And that was something in my life that I needed to hear at that time. And I can't tell you how much it meant to me. I spent I had like 25% of the book left, and I spent all Sunday morning like trying to hide from my kids because I had to know what was going to happen. I could not handle it. So much suspense. Oh, it was just so good, but intense. So if you're not into super intense, this may not be for you. And I wouldn't start book 3 in that case, but you could certainly do books 1 through The Wedding. Elle O'Rourke is planning on writing another book in the series. So I was really, really excited. And I looked around, I didn't find anything yet. So she must be in the early stages, but you better believe I'm going to be there on day 1 getting that book in my hands. Now I'm at book 6. We're talking historical romance. Lisa Kleypas, who else? Hello Stranger. And I love that book so much. This was a reread for me, but I never get tired of seeing Ethan Ransom, the most gorgeous Irishman you can think of. He is a detective. He teaches self-defense to Garrett, who is our heroine. She is a doctor based on a real life doctor at the time in the 1800s in London who really trained at the Sorbonne. So cool. This woman is brave. She's intelligent. She's strong. She wants to learn self-defense, and Ethan wants to teach it to her. He wants to celebrate all that she is. I mean, you've got a doctor and a detective paired up. You know there's going to be some incredible chemistry. It's going to be steamy. It's going to be exciting too, because there's some crazy stuff happening that they work through together. I just enjoyed it, and I know I'll be reading it again. I love this book so much. Number 7, I mentioned, okay, so these are 2 back-to-back that I mentioned in my Sweet Guys video the other day, and I felt a little guilty because I recommended this book, The Happy Ever After Playlist, and I was about a third of the way through, I think. At that point, Jason, who is a rock star, he's a dog lover, he ends up falling madly in love with our heroine, who is a widow, still trying to recover from the death of her husband. One day, this dog drops through the sunroof of her car, and on the collar is Jason's number. So she calls and tries to get in touch with him, but he's in Australia touring. She has no idea that he is a famous musician and his career is just starting to pick up. The 2 of them finally do link up. Almost immediately, sparks start flying, even over text and phone calls, to the point where he is ready to take her on a date the first time he meets her. This guy is the ultimate sweet guy, or at least that's what I said in the video, because he does everything for her to make her happy, to please her, and I mean everything. And unfortunately, though, there was some pretty crazy things that happened later on in the book, and I thought, oh no, maybe he's not so sweet, because he does some pretty messed up things, but it's in an effort to protect her. I don't want to give too much away, but it reminds me of what Wes said to Phoebe in another book I'm going to mention, Devil's Daughter. He says sometimes people do the wrong things for the right reason, and that explains Jason perfectly. The ending was so great. I love how Abby Jimenez kind of makes an epic ending that just feels so right. And I mean, they're just so good, and the romance was top notch. I loved how much he loved her, and the fact that they were willing to give up everything for each other. But it was like, who's more selfless? Let's find out. It's like a competition. But I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And here's the other really cool thing about this book. There's a song listed under each chapter of the book. So you can go and listen to the song and kind of get yourself like in that space. And it reminded me of when I was a teenager and I would really get into a movie, and I would of course get the soundtrack on CD at the time. And I just felt like I was becoming fully immersed in the movie. And it felt like that with this book. It was so fun getting to hear a song and then read the chapter. And I was creating a playlist on Spotify as I was going. So when I wasn't reading, I could just listen to the songs again and be like, oh, this is like when Jason kisses her for the first time or something. But it was just a really fun and kind of different experience with a romance novel. And I loved it. Number 8, Devil in Spring. I love this book. I'm just saying it about all of them, but they're all 5 stars, so I'm sorry for repeating myself. We have Pandora Ravenel. She is one of the twins. She is not even looking for a man, but stumbles across the most beautiful man alive, Gabriel, Lord St. Vincent. He is Sebastian and Evie's son from the Wallflower series. Actually, I say she stumbles into him. He stumbles upon her while she's stuck in furniture. Yeah, that's right. I loved it. I loved their meet cute. It was the cutest meet cute. And they proceed to have some pretty steamy scenes in some beautiful countryside along the beach. He gets her eccentricities, which I love. And who doesn't love a gorgeous man as well? But I thoroughly enjoyed watching these two fall in love. So good. I never thought I would have given this book 5 stars, but I totally am. Number 9, If It's Only Love. This was a football romance I did as part of my Try a Chapter challenge. I didn't realize it was going to be so good. It was very different. This was book 6 of the Boys of Jackson Harbor series, and it really made me interested to read the rest. I had never read Lexi Ryan before, and I was just so impressed with her writing. She does something that I think a lot of authors probably couldn't pull off, which is time hopping. There's a lot of time jumping within the book, and the way she does it makes total sense, but it also increases the pressure as you're going on. I could not wait to finish. Like, as the more you went through, the more the pressure builds and the tension builds. And you have these two people, Shay and East. They were childhood sweethearts, sort of. I mean, she loved him since she was like 7 years old, and he loved her, but they weren't ever really able to express it because she has like 5 million brothers, all of whom were saying, don't you dare touch my sister. So he never really got to express his love for her. And then over time, there were periods where they just couldn't hold it back anymore. And it was steamy and it was good. And then life would get in the way, and they make these choices to try to do the right thing. And unfortunately, it means they have to give up one another. But in the end, it's again, like, there's just more and more building, and are they going to make it work? And can they overcome these huge obstacles that absolutely felt realistic, but also big? And there were twists and turns I had no idea were going to happen. I was just at the edge of my seat, riveted. Never in a million years would I have thought that I would have enjoyed a football romance that much. Although there's very little football. I think it's like, and I was a football player. That's kind of, I don't think we have any games in this, but who cares? It's a really good book. This might be my last 5-star romance. It's number 10, In the Darkest Midnight. It's part of the Wraith King series, and I could not have enjoyed this more. I didn't think I was really going to love it because the novellas so far that I've read by her were kind of like, okay, that's nice. But this one really drew me in. I was not expecting it. The writing about wintertime, her writing is so beautiful. There's something so soft and deep about her words. I just feel like I sink into the page when I read. We have Radamar Velis. He is a knight from another kingdom, but he's come to this particular kingdom because he's being paid to train Janna's brother. And Janna is our heroine. Unfortunately, she's been ostracized by society because she has a purple birthmark going over half of her face, down her neck, into her upper chest area. And so people don't really give her a second thought. And if they do, unfortunately, it's usually to give her bullying type of attention, which is just horrific. But Radamar, from the moment he meets her, he is very taken with her. He doesn't even see the birthmark. He just sees the incredible person that she is on the inside. And initially I was a little nervous because he was like 22 and she was like 15. And I was like, please don't go there. Please don't do this. But thankfully it fast forwards in time quite a bit. where you see their friendship developing. There's my bird clock, sorry. I loved the scenes where they're having exhibitions. It reminded me very much of the movie Robin Hood or something medieval period, King Arthur, all of that. And I really enjoyed watching Radamar train Jana and help her become more confident as a person and know her worth. I loved watching their romance bloom. It was gorgeous. Number 11, I just mentioned this a moment ago, Devil's Daughter. I enjoyed this immensely. This was a reread, and West is one of my favorite characters of all time by Lisa Kleypas. I love how funny he is. He's self-effacing, he's humble, he's helpful. He's undergone quite a transformation in the Ravenel series, and I was so happy for him to find true lasting love with Phoebe Lady Claire. She is the daughter of Sebastian and Evie. She's a widow who is also a single mom, and she is trying to just get along with life when she meets West, who was actually enemies with her late husband when they were in boarding school together. So initially she really dislikes West, but realizes that he is very much a changed man, and the love that they build with one another is just top notch. The only reason I gave this a 4.75 instead of a 5, I'm splitting hairs here, is because at one point he tries to teach her a lesson, and I don't care for that. So I can't give it a 5-star West. Sorry about that. Coming in at number 12, Marrying Winterborn. This is book 2 in the Ravenel series. You're going to see a lot of Ravenels in this video. I gave this a 4.5. I loved Helen, the oldest of the Ravenel girls, meeting the man of her dreams. He was a little rough for my taste around the edges. He's a Welshman. He's a made man, a butcher's son who rises in the ranks to have the best, biggest palace of a department store in London. He's the talk of the town, although they never really accept him, of course, because he's not one of them. He's new money, and he's hopeful that Helen is going to help him rise into society. But he realizes that he was sort of superficial and shallow in the beginning, and becomes deeply, deeply in love with her and realizes that love is real. He didn't even think love was real before then. Why didn't this get a perfect 5? Well, he decides that to make sure that she's going to marry him, he has to deflower her, which was so awkward. It was the most, Lisa Kleypas can write a good love scene, I'll tell you, but that scene was awkward for me. So not a perfect 5. Coming in at number 13, the only book I read that was not like a romance novel. It was the sequel to Hocus Pocus. It's 2 books together. It's Hocus Pocus and the sequel. And I really enjoyed the sequel. This is almost, I would consider this to be a paranormal YA romance. But again, I don't know that Disney would even consider it that. It's about witches and about teenagers trying to work against these witches. So in that way, it was similar to the first book and movie. But what's really interesting, and of course I didn't know this until the movie came out just the other day, the sequel book is completely different from the sequel movie. I thought they were going to be basically the same thing. And initially I was disappointed because I really enjoyed the sequel book because I loved seeing so many of the characters from the first movie in the second book. I loved the growth of the teenagers as they're going through this night trying to defeat the witches. I loved seeing where all the characters from the first movie have ended up. That was probably the most fun for me. I highly recommend this book, especially if you like the movies. I think you'll love the books because it gives you a whole other experience than the second movie, which is honestly really cool. I am so excited to say I read my very first Tessa Dare. It's number 14 at 4 stars. Any Duchess Will Do. I really did enjoy this book immensely. I loved her writing. I was laughing out loud. I loved how there was intellectual disability representation in this book. I have never seen that in a historical romance novel before. We have Pauline. She's our main character, and her sister is special needs, and she protects her sister fiercely, which at that time was not done. And I loved how much she loved her sister and how she basically makes all the choices that she makes in the book, even when it's not in Pauline's own best interest, she makes them on behalf of her sister. And I loved that. I also loved our hero. He is a rogue, and he's one of those classic reformed rakes, but he's got some serious skeletons in his closet that he's not willing to share with anyone but Pauline. And I loved watching their romance grow. But I think I'm burying the lead here. Let me explain how they even meet. Griffin, who is our hero, his mother wants him to get married. And so she takes him to Spindle Cove, which is apparently, there are 3 other books before this one in Spindle Cove, which now I'm very curious to read them. Apparently Spindle Cove is the place to go if you're looking for a wife. So Griffin decides he's going to make his mother pay for doing this to him, and he picks the barmaid, essentially, instead of picking one of the millions of upper crust ladies that are there hoping to win his hand. So yeah, he picks the barmaid thinking he's going to put one over on his mom. It's reminded me very much of Pretty Woman. In fact, when she goes to this bookstore and they won't really pay any attention to her because she's low class, it reminded me so much of Pretty Woman. I practically pictured Julia Roberts in there later going, big mistake. Huge, because they didn't pay attention to her, because she does come back to this bookstore with Griffin. He wants to help her succeed in her dreams. He does not want to fall in love with her or anyone. So they work hard to help her fail. She has 1 week to try to become this beautiful duchess. And if it works out, he's supposed to marry her. He's told her, I will pay you whatever you want if you fail miserably. And she says, usually I fail at succeeding, but I think I could succeed at failing. And I was like, preach, girl. I know what that's like for sure. I loved seeing what was going to happen in turn. I really didn't know. Is she going to become somebody that they all respect in that society? Are they really going to fall in love? Are they going to decide that their worlds are just too different? What is going to happen? But I just enjoyed it so much. And I love the scenes with Pauline and Griffin's mom, where she's trying to help Pauline become this upper crust lady. It was very fun. Here was something funny. Sometimes I sort of zone out during love scenes because I'm like, okay, yeah, they're having fun. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing important for me to remember right now. This is the first book I've ever read where there's important things being discussed during these love scenes. I have never seen 2 people talk more while making love. And I actually had to run it back and hear parts of it over and over because I was like, wait, what was just said? That was huge. This is important plot development that's happening while they're doing this. So I was like, well, this is a different experience. But it was fun. It was a good time. The only reason I didn't give it a perfect 5 stars is because the last hurdle at the end I felt was a smidge contrived, but still, it was a good time. And I am really excited to read more Tessa Dare in the future. Number 15, Chasing Cassandra, Pandora's twin sister, from Devil in Spring. She is more than ready to find love with Tom Severin, everybody's favorite frenemy. I enjoyed watching him understand his more than 5 feelings. As he grew and fell madly for Cassandra, she is able to bring out things in him that no one else can. And you just get the sense that her care and love is going to make not even just Tom a better man, but Basil, the young man that they wind up sort of adopting, it's going to improve his life as well. I thought Tom was a hoot and a half. He's not trying to be romantic, and yet somehow he pulls off being romantic and funny better than just about anybody. He's brilliant. He owns his own railway line. The guy is loaded and he wants to do whatever it takes to win Cassandra, but he thinks it's going to be money when in reality it's just accepting her as she is. The only reason I couldn't give this 5 stars is because I felt like he still had some growing to do. He wasn't my favorite because he is very analytical and serious and literal, so it wasn't quite as much hearts and flowers for me. And even in the end, he was sort of making choices where I was like, where's your heart, man? Let's think about this. But I really, really enjoyed the book. So 4 stars. And for my last book, this is number 16. I only gave this 2 stars. This was The Sweet Surrender of Janet Buchanan. It's a novella. And if you know me, you know that I tend to be less excited about novellas. And this type of book is the reason why. It's not even fair. I was reading the Parallel series while I was reading this. And in comparison, this felt like I was reading about 2 cardboard cutouts in terms of depth of character. We have 2 people that just don't like each other, but they're both super attracted to each other. There's a lot of brawling, fighting, split lips, people getting stitches. It's not my thing. I didn't care for the fact that our hero slits people's throats while they're sleeping. I thought that was really cowardly. One of the things I've always loved about Paula Quinn's books, and I'm wondering if I'm just not going to like the series, because this is like the 3rd or 4th book that I've either DNF'd or given a terrible review. I loved her Children of the Mist series. I loved her McGregor series, but these gentlemen in this series are not, they're not even quite gentlemen. They don't have the level of honor, I don't think, that the men in her first 2 series have. And I think that's what's sort of missing. The heart is not quite there for me. So I don't know if I'm going to finish the series, to be honest. I was planning on doing that, but I don't know. It's just kind of missing the mark. I'm a little disappointed. I was just not really buying their chemistry, or they need to be together and that they love each other so deeply. He has to go back to this castle to protect it, and that's the main plot. And I didn't even find that very compelling. It's not even his castle. It's his friend's castle, but his friend is off fighting a pirate for some reason. I was like, what? I don't understand. So yeah, I just didn't really care for it. I did give it 2 stars because I liked some of the romance a little bit, if you could try to suspend a bit of belief, and I love a good Highlander here and there, but so 2 stars, unfortunately. Well, those were the books that I read, and it was 3 novellas, not 2. Oh man, but still, I think 16 is a lot. I'm really looking forward to all the books I'm reading in October. It's still a toss-up as to how much I'm gonna like any of these, because I'm basically doing almost all paranormal, which is pretty much new for me. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping to share that with you. Let me know in the comments, what are you reading? Have you read any of these? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is that you're reading. And until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.